Good morning, students. My name is Josna Nagpal. I'll be taking microeconomics for you for SEM 3B SYBA. I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Josna Nagpal. I have done my MBA Finance from University of Wales, London. I've also done my MBA IT, dual specialization from University of Wales. I've done my master's in personal management, that is MPM from Savitribai Phule Pune University. I've done my bachelor's in computer applications, and I have recently completed my bachelor's in education as well. So I have around 9 years of experience teaching students of right from 11th standard, 12th standard, graduation students, post graduation students. I have already taught such students. So without wasting much time, without spending a lot of time on the introduction part, we'll start with the subject. I am sure that you all must have studied something about economics in your previous grades. There could be students who might have shifted from science background. They I'm sure they wouldn't have much idea about economics, but the ones who are from commerce, who must have studied in 11th and 12th, they roughly have an idea of what economics is all about. So just to start with, if someone asks me what is economics, I would rather give them an example and explain, because this is a practical subject. To be very honest, all of us use economics in our day to day life. Our parents, we ourselves, all of us use economics concepts. Now, what is this economics? Say, for example, if I give you an X amount as a gift, say I give you 2000 rupees as gift, and I tell you you can spend it the way you want to. Go to the market and spend this 2000 rupees wherever you want to. So you will start thinking of what all you want. Where should I spend this 2000 rupees? What all I want? I immediately want this, I want this, I want that, I want this. You will start making that list in your mind, or probably on a piece of paper, that okay, I'm going to purchase these things with this 2000 rupees. At the end, you realize that this amount that I have mentioned, 2000, is very less. Rather, it could have been a little more. Rather, it could have been 3000 rupees, or at least 2500. Because if you see, your wants, the things that you want, are so many, and the money that you have got is so less. This is nothing but, when our wants are unlimited and our resources are scarce, our resources are limited, we always make a choice. We always settle down at one thing. We always do some kind of compromise. So, what is that exactly? That is nothing but economics. So, whenever anyone asks you what is economics, in simple words, you will explain that economics is all about choice making. And why is there a necessity to make choices? There is a requirement to make choices because our resources are scarce and our wants are unlimited. So, we always try to create a balance. We always try to create an equilibrium situation. That is the meaning of economics. So you have economics in two parts. One part you have it as microeconomics, the other part you have it as macroeconomics. What is microeconomics all about? What are the concepts that we are going to study in microeconomics? We will do that in detail. And what are the concepts in macroeconomics? What are we going to study in that? That also we are going to do in detail. Right now, the focus will be on microeconomics introduction. So as you know, students, I already mentioned that there are two branches of economics. Do not say types of economics, that there are two types. No, there are two branches of economics. So economics as a subject is split into two parts. One part is your macroeconomics, the other part is your microeconomics. Who had done this classification? This classification was done by Ragnar Frisch in the year 1933. He was of Oslo University, and he was the one who had done this uh, uh, this bifurcation. Now, another thing that you need to know when you are studying this subject is the father of economics. The father of economics is said to be Adam Smith. He is the father of economics because he has given a lot of contributions to economics. This word economics is derived from a Greek word oikonomia. Oikonomia means households. So we've got this word economics from another Greek word which is oikonomia, which means households. Okay. Now what is microeconomics? Let us emphasize on this more. Microeconomics studies economics problem at individual level. Whenever you see, you must have studied in science, you have this microscope. You study the cells of maybe of our skin, or maybe of onion peel. You take an onion peel, you put it under the microscope, and you study the cell structure of that. So when you're studying something under a microscope, you are studying it at a very minute level. You are studying it at a very individual level. You are studying it at a particular level. This is nothing but microeconomics. So whenever you study microeconomics, you are studying economic problems at individual level. Who are the people who are involved in an economy? There could be a consumer, there could be a producer. These are the two major elements of an economy. It is called as households and firms. So in a household, who is a household? Household means where from where we get the consumers. So when we are studying a consumer, or when we are studying a particular producer, or we are studying a particular firm, or we are studying a particular company, or we are studying a particular product, all of these come under the title of microeconomics, come under the studies of microeconomics. So in short, when you're studying microeconomics, you are studying everything at an individual level. Now it is also called as price theory. Why is it called as price theory? It is called as price theory because with the help of microeconomics, we are able to set the price of a product. Now that's a very big statement that I have made, that with the help of microeconomics, we are able to set the price of a product. How? Now my dear students, just to give you a glimpse, I would say I wouldn't go into the detail, because as we progress with our sessions, we will as it is study this in detail. However, I will just tell you that it is called as price theory because we are able to set the price of a product with the help of microeconomics. There are two forces that take place in the market. There are two forces. What are those forces? One force is demand, the other force is supply. So when both of these forces react with each other, the price of a product is set. Okay, so you study demand and you study supply. What is demand, what is supply? All of this also will be studied in detail in the further sessions. Right now, just remember that it is also called as price theory. There's a very famous person whose name is Watson. He has contributed to the definition of microeconomics. He says that microeconomics is a theory of small of the behavior of consumers, producers, and markets. If you clearly see this definition, if you emphasize on each of these words, you will understand whatever we spoke for the past 5 minutes or so. You will understand that in detail. That microeconomics is a theory of the small. We are studying everything at a minute, at a small level of the behavior of consumer, how the consumer behaves, of the producer, and of the markets. What is the meaning of markets? You all know that the meaning of markets is where a producer and a consumer meet, or where a buyer and a seller meet. There are different definitions given for markets. This is one of the simplest definition, that where the buyer and a seller meet. Okay, so whenever you are studying something at a very minute, very small, very particular level, that is microeconomics. The opposite of it is macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is always concerned with the aggregate phenomenon. Aggregate means what? Aggregate means total. You must have come across this word when you have like your semester. You have your first semester, you have your second semester. At the end of the first year, the first sem marks are taken, the second sem marks are taken, and the aggregate is done. And okay, out of the total 300 plus 300, 600, out of 600 you have got so many marks. This is what has been conveyed to you. So aggregate is nothing but total. This is one of the key words, one of the favorite words of macroeconomics. Kindly remember this word. Like in microeconomics, there is a word individual. You have to remember the word individual or particular. For macroeconomics, you will always remember the word aggregate. Okay, it is also called as income theory. Microeconomics was called as price theory because it helps us to determine the price of a product. Here it is called as income theory because it helps us to determine the income of the factors of production. Now, what are factors of production? Factors of production are nothing but these are certain things without which you cannot do your production. Factors of production are certain elements without which you cannot do your production. Which are those? There are four major factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Sometimes enterprise is also used with the word entrepreneur. So land, labor, capital, and enterprise. All of these factors of production get something in return, some income in return. What is that income that they get? Like land gets rent, labor gets wages, entrepreneur gets profit, and capital gets interest. So how to determine how much rent, how much interest, how much profits, how much of interest? All of these is done with the help of macroeconomics, and that is why it is also called as income theory. You can just remember this for time being. There is a definition of macroeconomics like I gave you for micro, a branch of economics dealing with all the forces at work in an economy or with the interrelationship of large sectors as in employment or income. Many definitions are there on the internet. Plus, if you all are using textbooks, there are many other definitions which you all can refer to. So in the exam, it is expected that whichever definition you all know nicely, the author you all know who has given this definition, you all can write it. So not necessarily that you stick around to this definition only. But the meaning of this definition says that it is the branch of economics dealing with all the forces of work in an economy. Whenever you are studying the entire economy at a whole, whenever you are studying the entire economy at a whole, you are studying macroeconomics. Whenever you are studying a particular unit, you are studying microeconomics. Okay. Now let us focus on micro. This was about the introduction to microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now we are emphasizing on purely what is microeconomics. So microeconomics, it is derived from a Greek word which is mikros, means small. Micro means small. So we got this word micro from micro, which means small. It deals with small segments of the society. So what you do is you take the entire economy, you split it, you cut it into pieces, and you study one particular unit at a time. That will be your microeconomics. So it deals with small segments of the society. There's a very famous person, his name is Kenneth Boulding. He says microeconomics is the study of a particular firm, particular household, individual price, wages, income, industry, and particular commodity. So if you can recollect my words that I just said some time back, that the word particular or individual is the key word for microeconomics. Whenever you are writing something about microeconomics, bear in mind you remember these words: particular, individual. Okay, so a very nice definition given by Kenneth Boulding. You can learn this definition. Now let us move on to what is the nature of microeconomics. We will study what is the nature of microeconomics. When you say nature, it simply focuses more on the characteristics, okay, more on the features side. So now what all is there in microeconomics? First one is supply and demand. So we are going to study about supply and demand as a part of microeconomics. That is one of the nature of microeconomics. What is supply? Whenever you study supply, you are talking with a producer's perspective. Whenever you're talking about demand, you are talking with a consumer's perspective. Both of these concepts are important in microeconomics. Like I told you, when you're studying microeconomics, you're studying a consumer, you're studying a producer. So supply is related to the producer and demand is related to the consumer. So both of these concepts automatically become important in microeconomics. It is a comparison level of the consumer's demand and available supply. There is a relation between interrelation between supply and demand. How? Like we already know that when the supply is high and the demand is less, the prices of the goods will reduce. Like for example, I'll give you a perfect example for this. If I feel like eating mangoes in the month of January when it is winters, I want to eat mangoes in the month of January. That time the supply for mangoes is less. But all of us like mangoes, so the demand is high. So if you go to purchase mangoes, you will find it at a particular seller. You will see only a few sellers who are selling mangoes. If you ask them the price, what is the price? They'll say it is 2000 rupees dozen. You'll say, oh my god, that's too expensive. So he'll tell you, sir, ma'am, this is not the season to eat mangoes. It is still winters. So if you observe, that time the supply is less, and the demand is very high, and that's why the prices are high. But if it becomes vice versa, which means that when the demand when the demand is less and the supply is more, when the demand is less and the supply is more, that time the prices of the goods will fall. Supply is in excess, we have lots, but the demand is not that high, then the prices are going to decrease. Okay, so this was the first nature. Second is about pricing. It is very important for a producer to price his product properly. So I'm a producer, I'm selling different types of goods. It is very important for me to understand at what particular price will I price this product. How much is the competition for this product? How much is the demand? How much is the raw material available with me for this product? And accordingly, how much marketing I will do. There are different things that I will consider, and then I will price a product. So pricing strategy is also one of the important elements of microeconomics. Usually what happens is, I told you that how is the price of a product set? If you talk with the perspective of economics, there are two forces that act, demand and supply. I gave you examples in the previous slide. So when demand and supply act together, the price of a product is determined. Similarly, what happens when demand becomes equals to supply? When demand becomes equals to supply, it is called as the equilibrium price or equilibrium quantity. That means 100 units are demanded by the consumers, and 100 units are the producer is willing to supply 100 units. So when 100 is equals to 100, that is demand is equals to supply, it is called as the equilibrium situation. And at that particular price, whatever price is set at that equilibrium situation, that will be called as equilibrium price. The producer as well as the consumer will want the equilibrium price to be always there, because both of them will be happy in that situation. Now, demand has an inverse relationship with price. When demand increases, the when price increases, the demand decreases. Let me give you an example. In between, you all must have read in the newspapers that onion, being one of the most important vegetable that we require in our kitchens, the price of onion had reached rupees 100. So when the price of onion reached rupees 100, what a normal middle class consumer does, he immediately cuts down on the usage of onion. Rather than putting two in a particular sabji, we will just put one. So when the price increases, we will buy only half kg. We will say give only half kg. So that is demand decreases. That's called as inverse relation. Whereas when the price decreases, the demand increases. So say for example, this same onion became 10 rupees kg. So you'll at least say that let us buy in lot and keep. So you will buy in lot and keep. You will say give 5 kgs. So when the price decreases, demand increases. This is called as inverse relation. It is also called as negative relation. Too low prices can also affect the business. Like I told you, it is very important for a producer to determine the price. If he is setting the price very low, then also it is going to affect the business. Why? Because he is not going to recover his costs. He is going to run into losses. So if he runs into losses, then another again problem. He may not know that how much is the demand. He has to survey the demand and accordingly set the prices of the product. So there are two natures that we studied of microeconomics. One was supply and demand, the other one was pricing. Third one is research and promotion. Like I told you, my last statement for the previous slide was, the producer has to do a very good research as to what the consumers actually want. What the consumers actually want. If you deliver what the consumers actually want, you are going to do well in business. But if you end up selling what you want to sell rather than what the consumers want to buy, you are going to face a lot of problems, a lot of challenges as a producer. So good understanding of microeconomics will help in researching. A producer who understands the basic of economics. What is demand? What is supply? How is price related with demand? How is price related with supply? These basic understandings, if he or she has, he is going to be a very good producer, a very good supplier. It helps business to understand what is that product that I should manufacture. How should I manufacture it? Why? How? Because what is the technique I should use? Should I go for labor intensive or should I go for capital intensive? When I say labor intensive, it means that I use more labor to produce the goods rather than machines. When I say capital intensive, I say that I use more machines than labor. So what kind of technique I should use to produce and for whom it should be developed? Who are my consumers? You cannot say the entire market is my consumer. It depends upon your product. What kind of product are you catering? Depending upon the type of product, you will decide upon the target customers. So it helps business to understand what is that product, how, for whom, all of these WH questions. When do we get answers for these WH questions? When our research and promotion is done properly. When will our research and promotion be done properly? When we know the concepts of microeconomics well. Okay. So these were the major nature of microeconomics: supply, demand, pricing, research and promotion. We switch on to scope of microeconomics. What are all the concepts that are under the umbrella of microeconomics? How wide is microeconomics? So microeconomics covers a very important theory, which is theory of demand. What is theory of demand? Theory of demand tells us the relation between price and demand. Theory of demand tells us the relation between price and demand. Like I already mentioned, whenever you talk about demand, always keep a consumer in your mind. You are a consumer, you are a customer. So I am going to see the relation between price and demand. What happens when price increases, the demand will decrease. And when price decreases, the demand will increase. This is nothing but law of demand, which comes under the umbrella of microeconomics. Law of demand studies the relation between price and quantity demanded. It also studies how consumer distributes his income, limited income, not only income but limited income, to achieve maximum satisfaction. When I started the session, I gave you an example of rupees 2000. How will you spend this 2000 rupees so that you become very happy? Okay, that this is what I wanted and I got it. But microeconomics will help you to understand on what is that good, what is that product where you should spend this money so that you achieve maximum satisfaction. Not only that product, how much of that quantity of that product you should buy so that you get maximum satisfaction is also studied under microeconomics, under theory of demand. So theory of demand, there are two things that you study. One is law of demand and consumer behavior. I repeat, under theory of demand, you study two parts. One is law of demand and consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is where I spoke about that how limited income you will allocate on different goods. You will buy different goods with this limited income so that you get your maximum satisfaction, maximum utility. The next one is theory of production. What is theory of production? Production, supplier, production, producer. Immediately you have to correlate with it. So theory of production, it studies production function at different laws governing to production. Whenever you talk about production, there are different theories we study in economics, like economies to scale, law of returns to scale, short run returns, long run returns. All of these laws we study under the theory of production. We also study different types of factors of production under theory of production. Who are these factors of production? I told you there are four major factors of production: land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. What are the characteristics of these factors of production? What is the income? What is the factor payment that these factors of production get? How is it determined? All of these is studied under theory of production. In theory of production, you also study long-term returns and short-term returns, or long period of production cycle and short period of production cycle. All of these content come under the theory of production. The next one is about theory of price determination. Theory of price determination means how the price of goods is set under a particular market. When I say how the price of different goods is set under a particular market, it means that I already told you the meaning of market. What is a market? Market is a person where buyers and sellers meet. Okay, great. Now there are different types of markets in economics. There is a perfect competition. There is something called as monopoly. There is something called as monopolistic. And there is something called as oligopoly. Perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic and oligopoly. All of these are different types of competitions. In perfect competition, there will be large number of sellers, large number of buyers. In monopoly, there will be only a single seller and many buyers. So for example, if there are many sellers and many buyers. So for example, we are selling onions. Onions is sold by many sellers. There are many people. You go to a sabji market, you enter the sabji market, you will see 50 sellers selling onion. So when you go and enter the market, you ask the first person, what is the price of the good? What is the price of the onion? He will say it is 10 rupees kg. You go to the second one, he will not say 100 rupees kg. He will also say 10 rupees kg. Why? Because there are many sellers selling the same product. That is perfect competition. So how will the price be determined under perfect competition? Is studied under microeconomics. Now monopoly, only one seller is there, like the government. The government is selling us railway services. So if government is selling us railway services, government will really have to sit and think that how should I determine that at what rate should I sell the tickets? What is the price that I should charge to the consumers? Now there are different factors that government will take into consideration. We are not going to look at that. Basically, what are we trying to understand out of this point? We are trying to understand that how the price of goods are determined under different types of competitions. This is also a part of microeconomics. When we progress with the sessions, you all will get more idea on these topics. Next one is theory of factor pricing. Factor pricing, factors of production. How to determine how much rent, how much profit, how much interest, how much wages should I give? That is nothing but theory of factor pricing. We are employing, as producers, we are employing 4 factors of production to do our production process. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So how much to pay them? How much rent, how much wages, how much profit, how much interest to pay? All of this is determined with the help of microeconomics. Distribution of income is also studied under microeconomics. The next one is optimum allocation of resources. Very important point. With the help of microeconomics, you will understand that how these limited resources that are there with us, how to use them optimally. When I say how to use them properly, how to use them effectively, how to use them efficiently, so that it does not create any wastage and you are satisfied to the highest level. Producer, you will use the resources properly so that he gets maximum profit. Consumer, he will use this income that he has received, he will spend it on different goods so that he gets maximum satisfaction. So both of them will play a role. Optimum allocation of resources means whatever limited resources we have to use them in such a way that we get maximum out of it. As a producer, I get maximum profit. As a consumer, I get maximum satisfaction. That is optimum allocation of resources. A consumer or firm is in equilibrium when there is optimum allocation of resources. I told you both of them will always try to be in equilibrium situation. That we have got the highest, this is the highest profit and good profit that we are making. This is the highest level of satisfaction that I am getting after buying these goods. So that is optimum allocation of resources. The next one is about welfare economics. Welfare economics means what? Once you are using all your resources properly, once there is efficient and effective usage of resources, there is going to be welfare in the economy. Welfare means what? Welfare means it is an ideal economy. There is no wastage, there are no problems, everything is happening smoothly. So, how to achieve this condition? How to achieve welfare condition? How to have that equilibrium condition? This is also a part of microeconomics. So, my dear students, this is what is in the first session that we studied. We studied what is economics. We had an introduction to what is microeconomics, what is macroeconomics. We studied in detail what is the nature of microeconomics, and we also studied what is the scope of microeconomics. So I will end my session here. Thank you very much.